after we'd left school, there was this period where Edge went to a technical college, Larry got a job, Bono almost got into college, and I wasn't doing anything.
The reason why many documentaries are boring is that the filmmakers have decided what the film is about before they start. And when you do that, you lose the process of discovery. If you think you know before you go in what it's about, then you're not discovering anything. So for me, it's a process of discovery, and it's a journey. And so hearing from them and doing these interviews and discovering it in the editing room is wonderful. And there's many times where I'm like, oh, the story just landed in my lap, and it came from the sky down.
Larry,
We hated photo
make
shoots.
sure you get some sun on your face. And you come all a bit forward.
We started to be those kind of earnest, po-faced men.
Now I know why we always look so grim in our photographs. We just all so bored. Sorry, Anton.
Yeah, well,
What was that?
you're bored.
No.
Well, so the film started with me interviewing them. They were on tour, and so I interviewed them mostly, I think it was Bono in Santiago, Chile, and Edge, Larry, and Adam in Buenos Aires. And the way I start is very unusual. I just do these audio-only interviews, so it's just me alone with them, with an open-ended amount of time. So there's no film crew, and what happens when you do that is interviews become much more intimate and candid. And they're wandering, because I don't have, what's nice about it is I don't have an agenda. We're just talking. So with Bono, I think the first hour we talked about Irish poets.
We ended up in this hotel called the Palace Hotel, which was a festival of brown, meaning everything in the fucking hotel was brown. Brown carpet, brown, I mean, East Berlin was brown. Brown knobs on the stereo, brown.
We did these audio-only interviews in South America, in Buenos Aires and Santiago, and we talked about Berlin and the impasse. And it became very clear that the breakthrough was the writing of one. They were writing one song. In trying to figure that one song out, Edge brought in an idea. It was the bridge section, this one little technical piece. And they went back and it wasn't working, but they said, what if we take that and make it another song? And that became the breakthrough for one. And they all talked about it. They all talked about how terrible it was before, but then this breakthrough moment happened. They all had chills and goosebumps. And I said, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could find the sessions? Out of a miracle, there was a tape that was recording everything that was happening then. So you can hear them. It's almost like you're there, hearing them in the first session where it was in the wrong song, and then breaking it down and finding that song. And you are hearing Bono write those lyrics. You're hearing him write, literally singing the chords that the band should play as they're writing it. So you are like witnessing the inception of this classic song in a way in which I don't think has ever been recorded in a movie.
Right. Oh, it's bass part from Mysterious Ways. It's like trying on a new leather jacket. You're just like, oh, maybe this can work. Like, okay, make a few adjustments. Yeah, it's sort of, is it me? Yeah, it's kind of me.
Went in, we found that this pristine 16mm, it was uncut. So it was as if it came right out of the camera. So when you look at it, it's black and white 16mm film of these guys that has not been touched. And there are many scenes in this movie from that period, and it's like a memory perfectly preserved. So when we were in Berlin, and we were trying to figure out what to do with Larry, because he didn't want to do a traditional sit-down interview, I showed him this footage that I'd found of him being stopped by looked like East German police officers. The Trabant had broken down and he was berating him in German, and it's a pretty funny scene. And I showed it to Larry and he goes, "Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll get in the Trabant." So he drove us around in this Trabant, and he knew these are sort of archaic machines. You know, it's like more like driving a 50-year-old go-kart or a tractor with this very elaborate. And he took us up this very steep garage very elegantly in this inelegant machine, and showed us the wall and Checkpoint Charlie, and it was very vivid and very funny. And then to cut to that footage where he's being stopped and just smiling as the police officer is wagging his finger at him. It's a really funny moment. Well, I had heard that during their time in Berlin, Edge's marriage was in trouble, but I didn't know whether they would want to talk about it. And when I did the interviews, they all talked about it in ways in which I was surprised. And then Edge talked about this moment where he was doing the solo for Love Is Blindness and putting everything into it.
All the feeling, all the hurt, all the angst, everything went into that solo. Put down the guitar, went into the control, and listened back. That was really bad. And Danny looked at me, of course he had no idea what had gone into that. And he said, "Nah, that's not it, is it, Edge?" And I went, "Danny, you're right, it's not it."
God, how heartbreaking that is. You put everything into it and realize it's junk. And so I asked, when we were in Winnipeg, I asked Edge, would you just alone on the stage before the rest of the band arrives, can you just play this for me? And I didn't know what would happen, but what he ends up playing is so beautiful and heartfelt and poetic. It's my favorite moment in the movie.
Almost makes sense.
Adam's most poignant quote is one. After we had this incredible sequence of one, he says, "We didn't find our sonic identity, but we found our spiritual identity," to writing that song. And that really says it. That they still had a ways to go in terms of figuring out what the album sounded like. But in a band which almost fell apart, they found their spiritual identity, and when they realized that they could together write songs.